Welcome to the Nerdstalgic podcast with your host, the Ginger Bookworm. Nerdstalgic with the Ginger Bookworm. Nerdstalgic with the Ginger Bookworm.
Howdy beans, welcome back to another fantastic episode of the Nerdstalgic podcast. I'm your host, Luke the Human. Hope you're doing well, hope you're all good, as per usual. Before we get into today's topic, I just want to do a bit of housekeeping, because I like to keep my household clean. Make sure that you follow me on Twitter at nerdstalgic_pod to be kept up to date on everything and anything that I am doing. Also, if you listen to this on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Press that notification bell to be notified whenever I release a new episode every Sunday. It will really benefit me. I'm at 127 subs as recording this, so we're almost at 130. Can we get there before Christmas Day, New Year's? We will see. So that'll help me out immensely. So today we're going to be talking about the third Doctor Who 60th anniversary special, the Giggle. A quick reintroduction to anybody who is jumping in here. For the past 2 weeks, I've been covering the 60th anniversary specials for Doctor Who, which involves David Tennant as the 14th Doctor and Catherine Tate as Donna Noble. If you want to go back and check those out, I have an episode breaking down the Star Beast, and have an episode of breaking down last week's episode, While Blue Yonder. So if you haven't checked them out, please do. Those episodes are actually doing really, really well, both on Spotify and on YouTube, which is absolutely wonderful. So I just want to say, everybody who has listened to those episodes, thank you very, very much. Thank you for sharing them. Thank you for retweeting them. I've had a lot of people on Twitter just out of nowhere, and it's really, really lovely when people do this. Generally just posting the episodes on like, tweeting, shall we say, or Xing as it's called now, even though it's that silly. The episodes on their thing, I'm saying, oh, I'm just watching Luke from the Search Project's episode, check it out. Every little helps, and I just want to say I'm really thankful and appreciative to everybody who's done that. It means so much to me. Also, I do want to apologise. I've had some people's feedback saying the episodes are really, really long. Why are they so long? They all mean it in jest. They all mean it as a joke. I'm trying my best. I do apologise. It's mostly the introduction, which is why the episodes are so long, because I pre-record all the episodes in the morning, because it is currently the 9th of December at 11:52 in the morning, and I am recording it so that when tonight's episode comes out, I can jump on it straight away and get the episode out as soon as possible, really. So that's why they're so long, because I do long introductions. So I do apologise there, but I am listening to your feedback. But moving on swiftly, because I'll be here all day, I just want to say thank you again to everybody who has watched my coverage of these specials and have shared them. And if you haven't, if you're jumping into the Giggle, expect spoilers. If you haven't watched the episodes, or if you haven't listened to my reviews of the new episodes, please do go back and watch those episodes and listen to my reviews on them before you jump into this one, because there's going to be potentially a lot of spoilers for what's come before. So I don't want to give anything away. I don't want to spoil for anyone. But for anybody who's still here, who is still listening, let's move on swiftly. So first of all, I want to begin. I just want to do my reflections on While Blue Yonder. Since actually I've watching the episode, I've now seen it twice. I watched it about an hour ago before I started recording. I wanted to get like a refresh of the episode to take me straight into tonight's one. So I've seen it twice now, and on reflection, I still think it's a good episode. It's not the best episode in the world. It's not perfect, but I still enjoy it. I feel like when my first initial impressions, I think I was still in shock. I think everything was still very much up in the air. Like, oh my god, I can't believe what I just saw. It was The Thing mixed in with Event Horizon, two movies that I love, especially Event Horizon, incredibly underrated. Yeah, those feelings, and I love when Doctor Who goes in the horror genre and they go really spooky and stuff like that. And on reflection and watching it over again, I still think it's a good episode, but it has bit of it has its jankiness, but again that's Doctor Who at the end of the day. But I still overly enjoy it. If I had to put it in a list currently, it's Wild Blue Yonder and the Star Beast, and then we'll see tonight when the Giggle comes out where the Giggle matches up there. But my reflections on the episode is that I still enjoy it. I still like it. Yeah, the CGI is a bit jank and a bit silly at times, but you know what? As a Doctor Who fan, you grow to love that. That's kind of what you like whenever you watch classic episodes of Doctor Who. You know that the sets are going to be wonky, that you're going to lean on something, it's going to shake and wobble. And it's the same for like the 2000, the revival in 2005 and onwards. It was a bit jank, and the CGI wasn't great. People were saying about the CGI of this episode. I'm like, do anybody remember the Lazarus experiment? The episode with Donna, not Donna, Martha Jones and the Doctor. They go to a party and you've got Dr. Lazarus and he turns himself into something from Dead Space. And remember the CGI in that? That was the worst. That was like probably the worst I've ever seen it in Doctor Who ever. You know what I mean? But moving back onto the episode, I still think Wild Blue Yonder, even though it wasn't the best, and like from watching clips online with like Rusty Davis was like, look, the main reason why I kept this episode the secret is not just because it was like some big thing happened in it. It was mostly the fact of I wanted to have at least one episode, one special where we knew nothing about, where it wasn't teased or it wasn't spoiled. It was just like there somewhere and we don't know where they are, and we're going to together discover what happens. Because really, if you break the episode down, it is Dr. Donna land on a ship, get stranded, meet a hostile alien, and then beat the alien, and then leave before the ship blows up, basically. And you break it down that way, it doesn't sound that interesting, but when you actually watch the episode, you're like, there's actually a lot more to it. There's a lot more nuance, and there's a lot more reflections of oneself. There was a lot of moments in the episode where the Doctor could reflect from looking at himself, like that inner look, sort of the outer body experience of like, is this how I am? Is this how I act? Is this how I think and feel, and that sort of thing. And it's the same for Donna, and again, we had the personal moments between the Doctor and Donna, even though if it was the blank versions of Doctor or the blank version of Donna. Still, you had that reflection between the real versions. Okay, it's going to get confusing already. Between the real versions and how they feel and think, and X, Y, and Z. So, my overall sort of reflections on the episode is that I liked it. I thought it was really, really good, and I just don't feel like it deserved the hate that it got. But I still don't think it's as special as it could have been. But again, that's neither here nor there. At the end of the day, I enjoyed it, and I had fun, and I got lost in the sort of inertia of it, and that's what matters at the end of the day. Anyway, moving on to the sort of viewership of the episode. I did this for the Star Beast, and I thought it'd be interesting to look at it again for Wild Blue Yonder. So we're looking at the actual viewing figures of how the episode did. So the viewing figures are in for Doctor Who's second episode of the 60th anniversary special, Wild Blue Yonder, which aired on the night of Saturday, the 22nd December. The episode had an overnight rating of 4.83 million views, according to figures quoted by the BBC Entertainment correspondent, Liza Mizaba, which makes a slight dip when compared to the first of the 60th anniversary specials, The Star Beast. The Star Beast became the biggest drama launch of 2023, as well as achieving the biggest overnight ratings for audiences of the science fiction show. The viewing figures for Wild Blue Yonder are yet to be taken into account the amount of people who watch the show via catch-up, which will be available in the next 7 days. So on the night, the episode actually got 4.83 million TV viewers. Strictly, again, they won with 7.82 million, and I'm Celebrity got 5.05 million. As ever, the 7-day and 28-day considerations will be more significant figures. So the episode was seen less, but again, we don't really. We do probably currently have the data, but I couldn't find it. So they must hide it. I don't know where they hide it, but I can't find it. But we don't have obviously the viewing figures of people who watched it on catch up, because again, I know a lot of people, and I said this last week as well. The problem with Rock 2 at the moment, it's on at 6:30. Most people are either still at work or are out busy Christmas shopping. They're out at friends' house, parties, blah 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 blah, whatever you do on a weekend. A lot of people are not in at 6:30. I've got a lot of friends who are at work who miss the episodes live and have to like dodge Twitter and dodge the internet until they get home, so they can watch the episodes either that night when they get home or the next day. And I feel like that's the reason why I think my personal opinion is, one, you're putting it on a time frame that is kind of silly, really. If you're going to put it on, you've got to put it on like 7 o'clock, or even better yet, 7:30, 8 o'clock. That'd be the best time, in my opinion, for Doctor Who. So you put it on a later time. You get it out the way of Strictly, because as we all know, as I mentioned last week, Strictly is going to get the viewership because it's a show that mostly attracts the older audience. Really, when I say older, I mean grandparents, so on and so forth. It's going to attract those ones. It's going to be something that the older people who don't have work, who've retired, or are more chilled out, who don't want to go out anywhere, will be at home on the BBC watching those episodes. Not to call anybody's grandparents out. If I have done, I apologise. But again, you've got older people who haven't got much to do, so they're going to stay at home and watch Strictly. It's a thing. My nan does it. And whenever Strictly's on, we all shut up and we all watch. We can't talk. It's kind of like me when I watch Doctor Who, right? So obviously that's going to have the most viewership. I'm a Celebrity. Again, I'm a Celebrity is a big thing. It's going to get loads of views because, again, it's more mainstream. It's something that anybody and everybody can watch and enjoy. It's not sort of, you don't have to be a fan of it. You can just like watch it halfway through the season and enjoy celebrities eating bugs and stuff like that. So again, that's going to be more popular. As for the dip, I don't think it's anything to do with the Star Beast. I don't think it's anything to do with that. I just think generally is the fact of, again, we have all this hype, we have all this build up, that you need to watch Doctor Who. Doctor Who's coming back, the Star Beast, new episode, David Tennant, XYZ, it's coming back, you've got to watch it, right? It's that big hype, it's that big like, oh, I've got to watch it, I can't miss it. So of course you're going to have huge viewing figures on day one, because you always, every episode or every show will have day one viewings are really, really good. But I think, again, like the fact of Wobbly Yonder, we didn't know much about it. It was a secret, wasn't really talked about. Of course you're going to get a drop off where people are like, well, we don't really know much about it. There's no real big hype in it. There was no like trailer at the end of the Star Beast to really hype up what we see in Wild Blue Yonder, as there was, because that, for me, when I was growing up, that was the biggest thing, was the fact of, I'm going to watch, say, an episode, and at the end of the episode, at the end of the credits, it'll be next time, and then you get to see the Doctor with his companion go off on another adventure. And I love that because it got me hyped for what next week could be, and it got me excited. We didn't have that at the end of Star Beast, so there was nothing to hype up anybody for Wobbly Yonder. So unless you was a hardcore fan who was like, yes, I'm going to watch it, I've read Doctor Who magazine, and I follow it on TikTok and YouTube and X, Y, and Z and Twitter, and I'm going to be there day one. Fair enough. If you're that kind of fan like me, then you was to know. If you was just a casual fan, or you're getting into it new, there's nothing to really get you hyped up for like, oh, next week. You know what I mean? So of course there's going to be a drop, but I feel like what set Bob Blue Yonder off differently is the fact that at the end of the episode we get a hint at this week's episode, shall we say, which is the Giggle, and we get to see the Celestial Toymaker, and we get to see unit properly. We get to see Donna's family come back. We get to see the new science officer of unit, and so on and so forth. Like, we get hints of things that are going to happen in this episode. So I feel, again, I might be wrong, we'll see, when we get the viewership. I feel like the Giggle will do better tonight because, one, we've already had the sort of preview for the casual fans, people who've caught up with Wild Blue Yonder, to sort of go back, watch it, and then they finally get to the end of the episodes and get to see, oh, next week it's the final, it's the last episode, it's the grand finale. We're going to see the Celestial Toymaker, the Doctor, potentially, as we saw, we're going to regenerate, and we're going to get Shooty, and it leaves it hyped. So I feel like the Giggle will be the episode that will bring a lot of people in and get them excited and hyped for Doctor Who moving forwards. That's my thoughts and feelings. I just wanted to sort of break the viewerships down, but we'll see what happens tonight. As for tonight's episode, the Giggle, my thoughts on what the episode could be about. Obviously we know that we're going to finally see the Celestial Toymaker, which I'm excited to see because we haven't seen the Toymaker in 60 years, in a very, very long time since we last saw the Toymaker, when he and Hartnell and Stephen and I forget the other companion's name, the woman, what's her name now? No, the gun's out of my mind. But when the Doctor and his companions are taken by the Celestial Toymaker and are made to do play games, basically, and the whole thing with Celestial Toymaker, and why I find him so fascinating is the fact of the Toymaker. He's like a mega, or he's like a god, really. He's ever powerful, and that he can create universes, and he can these little universes that he makes them to play games, and anything that he wants in these universes will happen. He can make things happen. He can make people appear that have died or passed, blah blah blah. He's so powerful, and obviously, as if you've seen the classic ones, and obviously the Doctor defeats him, and then we never saw him again unless you read Big Finish or listened to Big Finish, shall I say, and the Toymaker has appeared in Big Finish and things like that. And also the Toymaker appears in my Tales of Terror, which is my Halloween Doctor Who short story collection book. But he doesn't really appear much otherwise, and that's last time we saw him. So him to come back now, played by Neil Patrick Harris, who I love, I think he's a fantastic actor. I'm really, really excited. I'm hoping his version of Celestial Toymaker, because we haven't really seen. They've released on TikTok and YouTube snippets of this episode, and I've been trying my best not to watch them. It's been really hard not to. So I've only seen small parts, but we haven't really properly seen, unless you have already. If you're unlike me and you don't have restraint, you probably have or haven't seen what his sort of transition, yeah, of the Celestial Toymaker is going to be like. I'm hoping it's going to be like Count Olaf. I'm going to hopefully that he's mischievous, he's evil, he's comedic, he is cruel, but comes off as kind, sort of thing. So I want a Count Olaf sort of when he did Series of Unfortunate Events on Netflix, which I haven't watched it again. Go watch that; it's fantastic, and read the books; they're great as well. But his version of Count Olaf on the screen was really, really good, and that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for like a Count Olaf-y Doctor Who sort of twist to the Celestial Toymaker. So I'm really looking forward to that. So we know he's going to be there. He's going to be the big bad. We also know that we are going to see the 14th Doctor. I mean, the 14th Doctor. Of course, we're going to see the 14th Doctor. We're going to see the 14th Doctor regenerate into Shutigawa as 15th Doctor. We don't know how or as to why yet. We just know that he's going to regenerate, and that's it. He's gone, and there is going to be the 15th Doctor. And then we're going to go to the Christmas special later this year, obviously. And then Shooty's going to be the new Doctor. It's really exciting, and it's really interesting to see as to where the show will go next. We know we're going to get Mel in this episode. We're going to see her, an old companion of the 6th and 7th Doctor, Colin Baker and Sylvester McCoy. I haven't really watched many episodes of their run, so I've never actually seen Mel in action. So for me, this will be brand new. My first experience to Mel, so I'm quite excited for that. But yeah, we don't actually. Apart from that, we don't really know a lot. All we know is that it's going to be different. And I know I said that about Wild Blue Yonder, but this one is going to be different from what I've seen in Doctor Who magazine and what I've seen from the trailers and stuff like that. I feel like this is going to be like a musical. I feel like this is going to be a sort of musically sort of thing, because you've got Celestial Toymaker, you've got Neil Patrick Harris, who has sort of experience on the stage doing musicals and stuff like that. I feel like this is going to be like a musical. There's going to be moments where he sings, he dances, it's going to be crazy, and he's having fun. He's Celestial Toymaker, he can do anything. Obviously, I had a theory of these specials before they came out, when we only saw the trailer, and my theory was that the reason why the 14th Doctor is back as David Tennant, why that Doctor now has that Doctor's face, and why Donna's come back, is I thought it was a big game by the Celestial Toymaker. I basically hinted at this in my last episode, but just to kind of recap, my theory was that the Celestial Toymaker is kind of like a fan, and that he's been watching the Doctor ever since he defeated him, and he's just been biding his time and watching the Doctor on his adventures, kind of like a fan, really, like me or you watching the Doctor on TV. And it's finally decided he's going to bring back the old favourites, bring back he's all, we say his favorite doctor, bring back his favorite companion, and also have a moment where that doctor can go through struggle and go through um, a lot of pain, because he has done in the last two episodes. He's gone through the struggle, he's gone through the pain, he's gone through the realization that he might lose his best friend, his realization that because of the flux, he doesn't know who he is anymore, where he comes from. He's not Gallifreyan, and not that thing. He's got a lot of things he's got to ask and question, and these are going to be the questions that will be answered moving forwards with Doctor Who. So this Doctor, as well as this Doctor's also got problems with the fact of what he did to Donna, and how he's had to make up for that, and how he's trying to make up for that, and so on and so forth. So I feel like this Doctor came back for a reason, and I felt like the Celestial Toymaker was that reason. Again, that still could be true, because we haven't seen the episode. It might still be the fact of, I would like the Celestial Toymaker might say to the Doctor, "I'm the reason why this face is back. I'm the one that brought you back, and that this whole universe, these specials, could all generally just be the Celestial Toymaker's pocket universe, and that this is all just him having fun, and that him just playing a game with the Doctor, tormenting the Doctor." You know what I mean? Where like the first episode was the Doctor returns, and he had to deal with the fact of I feel like I've just hit onto it now. I've just had a brainwave. Oh god, this is actually really interesting. Okay, so what if the first episode is bringing back sort of the Doctor as the Dave Tennant's face as a new Doctor, brings him back. He has now meets Donna, and now he has to reflect on the fact of what that means by him seeing Donna, and the fact of if Donna remembers me, she'll die. And at the end of that episode, as we know, the Doctor is able to bring the Doctor Donna back, and also kind of apologizes for what he has to do, and kind of finally face that thing that he'd been running away from for such a long time, these past 15 years of what happened to Donna, only to finally been able to bring back her memories, and she lives. So that is resolved, and that in Wild Blue Yonder, we get a moment where you get the blanks, the copies of Donna and the Doctor, and they both have a time to reflect on the 15 years they've been apart. You learn more about what Donna's been doing in the past 15 years. You know obviously we know what the Doctor's been doing in the past 15 years, but one thing that we didn't get to see is his thoughts and feelings of the past 15 years. And it's like therapy. The Wild Blue Yonder is basically therapy. It was like counselling. It was a way for the Doctor to look inwards, a Doctor and Donna to look inwards in themselves, and a kind of way of quasi way of projection through the blanks, as they know what you know, but they're more open about it, and they talk about it. It's a way to kind of talk to yourself, kind of like the Spider-Man thing where they point at each other, that sort of thing. Where it's like, so Wild Blue Yonder was therapy, where a lot of questions, things are answered that we need questions to, and the things that Doctor refuses to talk about. So first episode is sort of where the Doctor sort of reconciles what he did wrong, and he admits that he did wrong, and he makes up for it. The second episode is like therapy, and this end episode, I don't know what it could be. This could be like the big thing where like the Doctor finally sort of answers for what he has done and makes up for it. And finally, his final sort of goodbye, final apology, is the fact of it's time for me to go. Like I've done, kind of like what this idea with ghosts, where ghosts, the reason why we have ghosts is because they have unfinished business. Basically, that is the fact of this Doctor had unfinished business, things that he never got to resolve because he ran out of time, and that's maybe what this Doctor is. It's a ghost. It's a shell. It's a fact of it's the 14th Doctor, but it's not. It's a ghost, and that it's come back to sort of right the wrongs that face had, and now that it's written the wrongs, it has no longer a purpose anymore. It's done everything it needs to do, and then he regenerates into Shooty again. I don't know. Maybe I've hit onto something there. Maybe I've tried to dive into Russell T Davies's mind, but it's an interesting hypothesis. It's an interesting one. So we'll see. The one thing I do want to mention before I get into my final thoughts is the fact of there are leaks out there. I have already had the leaks spoiled for me because somebody told me these leaks. It's not their fault. They wasn't to know. They didn't know they were leaks. They thought it was a news article. But I won't talk about what the leaks are because again, if these leaks are true, it might spoil the episode for everybody. I don't want to believe them, but if they are true, then yeah, I'll talk about it tonight. I'll talk about it tonight. I don't want to talk about it at the moment. I don't want to spoil anything, but just be wary. There have been leaks floating around, so do your best to because I'm sure they'll ramp up today. So try your best to stay away from them as best you can. But yeah, I won't talk about those leaks. But part of me doesn't want them to be true. But if they are true, then they are. But I talk about it tonight. But overall, my overall thoughts of what this episode could be about, and my overall feelings really is the fact I'm like Wobbly Yonder. I'm excited. I'm still excited. I've still kept the faith. I've still kept the love of Doctor Who. It's still there. I still can't wait to see what happens. I can't wait to see the Celestial Toymaker finally after 60 years and see Neil Patrick Harris. I can't wait to see the Shutigawa. I want to see how his Doctor is. I want just to, because we're getting small, like 1 to 2 second snippets on like in sizzle reels that have been released recently. We're getting little snippets of Five where he looks or he smiles or he runs and blah blah. But I just want to get a feel of his Doctor. Usually, you can, if you can get a feel of the Doctor, you can realize if that Doctor is for you. And I just want to see if he's a Doctor for me. I'll watch it anyway, but I just want to see what kind of Doctor he is. You know, how he plays him. So I'm really excited for that. And obviously, like I said, Mel, I never really got to properly experience Mel, so it's going to be fun to experience that with fresh eyes, with no expectations whatsoever. So yeah, I'm excited basically, and I know basically looking at my timer, I've just been talking for 26 minutes. I know I said I was going to do a short introduction. I lied. I do apologise. But yeah, the review mostly will be a lot shorter. But I overall, my thoughts and feelings is that I'm excited. And that the Giggle is going to be fun and it's going to be bombastic and crazy. I am sure you don't get Neil Patrick Harris to play the Celestial Toymaker if you're not going to be bombastic and crazy and like a musical or odd, weird, wonderful, pizzazz, huzzah, sort of thing. You don't bring in an actor like him if you're not going to do anything like that. So whatever it is that they do, we will see tonight at 6:30. If you're in America, the episode more than likely is probably on Disney Plus. So if you like me and you watch live, the review's coming now. Or if you've watched it on catch up, I hope you enjoyed it. And you listen to this later. You're catching up to this later, by all means, fine. But I'm going to go off now and tiddle my thumbs until later. But for you, it's going to be my review of The Giggle. So, allons-y. Right, so my lovely, wonderful, beautiful beans, I have finished The Giggle. Would tell a lie, I finished it a while ago. As I said, I was going to go off and watch Doctor Who Unleashed first before I did my recording, because I felt like it helped a lot, especially when I did it for last week's episode of Wobbly Yonder, that we've been able to go into these reviews and write my reviews, my notes really quickly, and to go in with a bit more clarity helps to have the reviews to be a lot more smoother. But it is finished now. I've watched The Giggle, and honestly, hands up in the air, it is one of the best Doctor Who episodes I have seen in a very, very long time. It is up there being with one of the best, completely, in so many different ways. Like, I was crying so much, whereas like in Wobbly Yonder I was so in shock that I couldn't get the tears out. I knew I was emotional, I knew I was sad, I knew I wanted to feel something, but I was so shocked and awe in what I was seeing. I could not believe what I was seeing, if that makes sense. I couldn't fathom it. So my brain was like, you're on your own. You know what I mean? So I wasn't able to properly articulate my emotions in terms of crying and weeping and being sad. I was just like, oh, what? But with this one, it all came crashing to a head, and I was in tears so much, and yet there was so many twists and turns and fake outs, which we will talk about. The big fake out, if you've seen the episode, you know what I mean. but there were so many twists and turns, and the tears came with them, and there was joy, happiness, and genuinely, my initial thoughts. If you want my first initial opinion, and then you're not going to listen to the rest of the episode, if you just want to hear my first initial thoughts, is I loved it, absolutely loved it, and enjoyed it. As I've said, one of the best episodes of Doctor Who I've seen in a very, very long time. It's not just the fact of because it was David Tennant. Him being there helps, of course it does. But what Russell was able to do here, Russell T Davies, what he was able to write here and to put onto screen, really greatly articulates and translates the 21st century, current modern day age of that we live in now onto screen. And I love that. And I thought it was very clever, very smart, and a lot of fun. Russell's always had this incredible ability to so easily translate the world into a form of what's the word I'm looking for? Into a form of art, whether it be through It's a Sin, through Doctor Who, through all his other stuff that he's done. He just has a great way of translating the now and the past to make it feel present and real and alive, you know. And I think it was inspired when he came back, and it's still an inspired choice now. I know there'll be people out there who disagree with me, but Russell being back in Doctor Who is probably one of the best things that's happened to it in a very, very long time. And it shows it with this episode. If anything, Wild Blue Yonder and the Star Beast, they were layups. They were just like, I'm warming up. I ain't even started yet. And this is where it goes off with a bang. And yeah, my initial thoughts is wonderbar, wonderful. Absolutely loved it. It was incredible. Um, but obviously, you haven't just come for my initial thoughts. You've come for a bit more in depth, and I promise there will be a bit more in depth. There's a lot to talk about with this episode. So first and foremost, obviously, I've got to talk about Neil Patrick Harris as the Celestial Toymaker. Again, it was everything and everything that I wanted from his portrayal. I mentioned in the introduction that I wanted a Count Olaf type. Celestial Toymaker, and we get that in spades. And you know, from watching Doctor Who Unleashed, and I noticed it as well on screen, that they really took the character of Celestial Toymaker and really kept it the way the character was in terms of how it was. You know, it's so fascinating what they decided to do with his character, and how Patrick basically ran with the character, how that he's constantly changing his accent, he's playing around with cultures, he's cultural appropriation is the word for it, how he was constantly changing it from English to German to American, and he was changing the accents around, and they were really playing up the character, because again, the idea of the Celestial Toymaker is that Celestial Toymaker is a racist character from the 60s. And I thought that they were going to step away from that, but no, Russell, he really leaned into it and was like, look, this guy is evil, this guy's cruel, horrible, mean, and it's going to play in towards that. I'm kind of glad they did, because it plays to the strength, not just of the character, but Neil Patrick Harris did a fantastic job with it, that really you love to hate him. He is an evil, vindictive person who gleefully kills somebody. He's a murderer. He'll kill somebody while laughing. But the same stage is the fact that he'll pull you in like a toy maker, like an entertainer would. Pulls you in, gets you hooked, and then does atrocities and shocks you, then pulls you back in again. And you needed somebody like Neil Patrick Harris to really who can do performances, who can do big, brash, huge, out of this world, out of this universe type characters, as well as really hone it in when need to, being able to one-on-one, be able to do group things, as well as Neil Patrick Harris. Well, I'm just going to call him Neil. It's so much easier than saying his full name. But Neil can also, he's a magician. He knows how to do card tricks. He knows how to do puppetry and things like that. He is a trickster, a prankster. He is a performer at heart, not just basically in performing of acting. He is generally a performer. He can perform. And in this, you do get that. Neil Patrick, just Neil. Luke, just Neil. Okay. Neil dances in this. Says sings, he lip syncs, but so he dances this. He dances to the Spice Girls, Spice Up Your Life. Da, 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 da. I'm never going to be able to listen to that song and not see the scene where that first pops up ever again now. But we do get a Celestial Toymaker that's proper from the 60s. There's no whitewashing. It's generally like, this is the Toymaker. This is who it is. It's an evil character from the 60s, and it plays on that. And it's handled really, really well. I'm not doing it any justice. It's one of those that when you watch the episode and then you watch Doctor Who Unleashed and you listen to Russell explain it, it makes a lot more sense. But Neil, he does a fantastic job with the Celestial Toymaker, and I had a lot of fun with him. And it did feel like Count Olaf. He was having fun, but he was being very mischievous, and he was being very evil and cruel. And again, he does kill people, and he well, you don't see it. Well, you do actually see it, but he kills people. But it's very much the fact of, oh well, because he's a celestial being. He's like a god. You know, the idea that people's lives, creatures' lives, are nothing to him. It's just the fact of what's a life, a way of keeping meat fresh. To quote the Ninth Doctor. So to him, that's all it is really. He's like, oh, just life, all right. It's all about a game, but about chance. Their luck ran out, but you must have some luck. Let's play a game. It's kind of like Jigsaw in a way, kind of like the doll, and the guy who does Jigsaw, obviously. It's very much like that. It's a game to him, and again, Neil portrays that absolutely fantastically. And again, we get moments with the 10th Doctor and the Toymaker, as well as we get proper moments between Donna and the Doctor again, which is what we wanted. We wanted them to finally come together and talk, sit down and talk, because this is not a problem, but it is kind of a problem with the 10th Doctor, is the fact of, granted, with Matt Smith, Peter Capaldi, Jodie Whittaker, as they progressed on their stories and journey, they got better at being emotive. They got better at sharing their feelings and being open and honest, and admitting when things were wrong. But David Tennant's Doctor was always the fact of, I'll be all right. Oh, anyway, let's go run off down a corridor, or don't worry about it, I'll tell you later, that sort of thing. Like, he emoted sometimes, but most of the time when he did emote, when he got sad, he was on his own. The times that he wasn't on his own, he quickly he just like sucked it all back into him. It's like, oh yeah, well, no time for tears. Next adventure, and he never allowed himself to emote. So finally, with these episodes, we finally get that Doctor to open up, basically. But look, you've been through a lot of stuff in the last 15 years, and all the other stuff you've been through in your past generations. Never once have you stopped to really just stop at all. Even when you've stopped, you don't sit still. You're constantly needing to do something. And finally get that moment between the Doctor and Donna where they could just stop and to talk. And those were the moments that made me cry the most, because I was happy because the Doctor was opening up, because the Doctor never really opens up, and when they do, it's that moment of like, this person's been through a lot of mental trauma. I've spoke about it before when I reviewed the Ninth Doctor, his series, and I implore you, please go back and check that episode out. But I talk about it in that with the fact of, the Time War really, well, lack of better words, screwed the Doctor up, messed him up, and he was never allowed at any moment to really to get counselling, to get therapy, to sit and talk to anybody. He just had, his way of dealing with it is just keep moving on, and we see speckles and little bits of hints here and there as the series has gone on, of like, I never forget. I remember everybody who died. I remember all the numbers, every person, every name. I haven't forgotten it. I haven't forgot every single companion. I've never forgotten everything. It might seem like I've forgotten things and I don't care, but I remember every single thing. And you've got to imagine, and I'm getting emotional now, you can probably hear my voice. You've got to imagine, yes, he's a Time Lord. He lives generations and generations. He's 1,000 years old. But just get rid of that. He is a being. He is a life form with feelings, with emotions. No matter how long you live, no matter how strong you are, eventually it's going to come crashing down. And if you're constantly going from one place to the next, where you're watching civilizations die and crumble, you're watching friends and family die, you're watching loved ones grow old without you, and you can do nothing but watch them whittle away and die. It gets to the point where you break down, and you're not allowed to cry, because you're like, well, I haven't got time to cry, because if I cry, if I get sad, emotional, another universe, another planet dies. So I haven't got the time to cry because people are out there dying who need me. And it's I'm getting emotional now, as you can tell, because it means that the Doctor can finally properly sit down and admit that they're not okay. And that's really good for people who struggle with mental health, is the fact of you need to sit down, to slow down, to stop, to be like, look, I'm not okay. I've been through a lot, I need a friend. And that's what finally he gets with Donna, is the fact that he gets the chance to sit down and like, look, I've been through a lot of stuff since we last met. My whole life I've been running. I don't know what to do. And it's lovely. And I'm getting emotional again, because those were the things that I was running through my mind as I was watching this, was the fact that the Doctor just needs someone to talk to. And he has Donna, and it's lovely. I'm getting emotional again. That's, whew, okay. So that was really, really nice. It was. But that also sort of leans into my next point that I want to talk about, is the fact of as we knew, we get a new generation. New regeneration, shall I say, with this episode, and we finally get to see Shutikawa as the 15th Doctor, which I would gladly, happily talk about him very, very soon. But I want to hone in this one point, because there's a lot to talk about in this episode. But we get that regeneration, and here's me crying, and I'm sitting there going, okay, here we go. Like, even though I know it's coming, and he's already regenerated once, I'm sitting there crying my eyes out, thinking, like, I don't want to say goodbye. I've said goodbye to him 15 years ago, and then to get him back, and then say goodbye to him again, was quite upsetting. So I started crying again, and then he's regenerating. I'm like, okay, see you later, bye. I'm saying goodbyes, and then he stops regenerating, and he's sitting there, and he's looking around, and like he's got Mel to his left, he's got Donna to his right, and he's looking around, and they're both looking like, what's going on? And he's like, I don't know. And then he gets up, he's like, pull me. And so they pull him. And Mel and Donna, they pull him. And also it was nice to know that he had two friends next to him when he was regenerating, because usually he does it on his own. So to have two people next to him, just kind of saying goodbye to him, two people from his present and from his past, was quite lovely. But they pull him, and then we have the bio regeneration, which is a new thing that in the Who lore that Russell T Davies brought up, and I think it's a wonderful idea. That it was thought of a myth, but this idea that the Doctor can split themselves in two. So instead of regenerating, it can keep the old body, the old face, but also split themselves in two, and there's another Doctor, there's another version of themselves with a different face and different body. And that's what's happened here with the 14th Doctor and the 15th Doctor. And I love that. I love that idea, and that and what it also leaves a question of, well, what does that mean now? Because this is the thing that we're left with, right? So they're split into two. They defeat the Toymaker in a very wonderful way, in a very wonderful fashion, with tons of cryptic things about what could come next, which again I will talk about in a minute. And then they have these moments, and then once they've done it, it's the fact of, well, me as the viewer, you're left with the question of, well, what does this mean? Do we have two Doctors? Do they go off and travel together? What will happen? And we do get some answers, like, for example, because the Toymaker was in that realm, that he's still, his essence, shall we say, he's still there, his game is still going on. It hasn't stopped playing yet. And because both Doctors won, Shooty ends up picking up a mallet out of the ground and hits the TARDIS, and the TARDIS goes ba-ding, and then another TARDIS, like a copy of that TARDIS, flies out, and then a copy of the TARDIS is made, and you've got the 14th Doctor just absolutely confused and bewildered, and he goes into this new copy of the TARDIS, and it's exactly the same. Only thing that's different is that it's got a jukebox, and he goes out and he goes back into his TARDIS, and it's like very much that it's a copy, and then we have a moment where the 15th Doctor, Shooty, he goes off, he gets into his TARDIS, and the other Doctor's like, where is he? And he's like, no, he's not running off. And he runs in with Donna. And he's like, don't get running off because I know that. That's what I do. And he goes, no, no, I wouldn't. And he gives David a hug and he gives Donna a hug. And he's like, all right, kids, time to go now. Get out. I've got a whole universe to see. His fresh, young face, young body, young life. And the Doctor, he goes off, and it leaves the 14th Doctor and Donna and Mel to just leave them there. And it's kind of a nice little moment for the David Tennant and for the 14th Doctor to be like, I rarely get to see this. I rarely get to see my own TARDIS deapparate in front of me. So it's quite nice, really. And then we get a lovely shot where David Tennant, the 14th Doctor, is with Donna, Sylvia, Rose, Donna, not Rose, Donna's daughter Rose, as well as Donna's husband. Wilfred is off shooting moles, but he's the 14th Doctor likes the moles. He loves the moles, so he's give the moles force fields, so it's they don't die, which is lovely. And you've got his TARDIS in the background, and it's lovely because what this means, because this is one of the reasons why I'm glad I watched Doctor Who Unleashed, because it gives you an answer, it gave me an answer to something that I was asking a question to, and it kind of reaffirms something for me, is the fact of, he mentions, Rusty Davies himself mentions that this is David's stopping point, and that for him, not just for David, but for his Doctor, and because David Tennant's Doctor, the 14th Doctor, is basically the stopping point of this is not what David says, it's my interpretation. So basically David says this is the stopping point for David, right? But my interpretation of what Russell said is the fact of, and I might be wrong because again I don't know, this is me being sort of fan theory right now, is the fact of David is the final, shall we say, he's the curator from the last special where we met to meet the 4th Doctor again, Tom Baker, the curator. Think of it like that, where it's kind of the fact of David Tennant, the 14th Doctor, is the final stop, shall we say, in the line of this Doctor's, for all the way from Hartnell all the way up to the 14th Doctor. That is one huge timeline that we can go back and watch with the classics and the revival and the movie, and all the specials and Big Finish and all the wonderful things that Doctor Who has been up until this point, including the books and all other forms of stories. So that's where it ends. It ends with him. He is the last of that timeline. As for Ncuti is now the new Doctor. He is the Doctor, and even though he's the 15th Doctor, you can think of him as Doctor One, as the first Doctor now in this new sort of generation that goes forwards. And anything from Ncuti onwards will be, it will still be the 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th Doctor. But to me, as a fan, and I guess if other fans want to take this on as well, but for me, Ncuti will be Doctor 1, then whoever comes after that will be Doctor 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, then 6, then 7, 8, blah, for the next 60 years until we do this all over again. You know what I mean? When I'm an old man. And I'm looking forward to that. I'll be in my 80s. I think so. Yeah, I'll be in my 80s. God damn it. Oh, well, hopefully I'm still around. But what this means is that the 14th Doctor is in retirement. That he is kind of, after everything that's happened to him, all the years through the classic series and through the revival, he's in retirement now. He's allowed to basically hang up the tie, hang up the bow tie, hang up the scarf, as we say, of the Doctor, and that the legend has been passed on. The title of Doctor has been passed on to the new Doctor, and that this Doctor is going to rest. It basically going into retirement. Now, we're not to say that if David or Russell wanted to, which I'm sure both of them would want to, not to say that they couldn't come back in a special, or that his Doctor couldn't show up in the unit spin-off that I'm about doing. Who's to say? For example, like in this, Kate Lethbridge-Stewart offers Donna a job and Donna takes it in unit. So, there is always that possibility. of him showing up. I think this is the stopping point, that we might see him in specials and we might see him on the rare odd occasion, but I feel like this Doctor, it's the end of David. It's the end of this. It's the retirement years. And granted, there's hints that him and Rose have gone off on adventures to Mars and things like that, and Donna's not very too happy about it. So there are hints to that, but I don't. For me personally, I think I would rather leave him here. Like, bring him up in specials here and there. Okay, fine, because he's still there. You're going to have to. This is the issue that sort of the MCU is going to have to deal with now whenever they talk about Captain America, because we still have old man Steve Rogers somewhere in the MCU at the moment. Where is he? We don't know. So eventually we're going to get that problem here in the Doctor Who universe, is the fact of, well, I know Shooty's there, but is the 14th Doctor going to pop up? Like, he's not in an alternate universe, he's in this universe. I thought it was going to be two separate universes. I thought this was going to be a huge game by the toy maker. All these specials were going to be one big pocket universe, and that the 14th Doctor was going to stay in this pocket universe that the Celestial toy maker had made, because he's happy and he wants to stay there, and this new Doctor would potentially go off into the new universe, or even the fact of he regenerates and decides to stay in this new universe that the Celestial toy maker has made. There were many theories that I had, and there were many theories going around, but I like what they've done here, where they've basically put this Doctor, this old Doctor, into retirement, and they've let the new one run off and go on new adventures. And I think it's a very lovely thing. But it also brings into my hypothesis, which I can now say is a theory because it's been proven right factually in this episode. So you might have realised in the introduction that I had a hypothesis, that I had a brainwave that basically these 3 episodes was kind of like therapy for not just the viewer, but for the Doctor, primarily the Doctor, but also Doctor and Donna, because in episode 1 we had the Doctor redeeming his mistake with Donna, his biggest mistake. He got to redeem himself, he got to make things right, and he got to bring Donna back, bring back all of her memories, because he said himself many times, it killed me to do what I did to you, Donna. I never would have wanted to do that, and I had to do that, and it killed him. And it did, as I mentioned before, it did kill him, and he regenerated and he went on. And he was given the chance in the Starbase episode 1 to redeem himself, to redeem the wrong that he did, to give Donna back her life. And as we see in the Starbase, she wasn't happy with her life that she got, and now to finally have her memories back, she is complete again. So episode 1 is the redemption. Episode 2 was therapy for the Doctor, reflecting on who they are now, how far the Doctor has come, not just in the 15 years, but who they are as a person after the flux, after what happened to Amy and Rory, what happened to Bill, what happened to Clara, what happened to all the other companions, what happened to all the stuff in the classical era. They even mentioned the Adric, from Earthshock, Logopolis. I never thought they'd ever mention Adric, but he does. He mentions it. He remembers him. In this episode, in the third episode, in the Giggle, but still, it's that very much so. Is like episode 2 was the therapy, it was the counselling, it was the intervention, it was what the Doctor needed to talk not just to himself, but also to talk to Donna, to talk to his best mate, to be like, look, I'm not well, I'm not good, I haven't stopped running, I'm going to get myself emotional again, I'm still running, I'm running away from my problems, I'm running away from my past. I've never ever, like, even it takes me back to Peter Capaldi when Bill basically questions him of, like, have you ever killed somebody, and you've just got him sitting there going, I trying to remember the quote now, so I'm gonna misquote, but it was something to the lines of, like, I'm 15,000 years old, and in all that time I have never been given I've never had the pleasure of being being angry, being upset. I've never been allowed that pleasure that everybody else gets to have that. I have to just keep moving on, because if I don't, I'm going to explode. And it's not just, I'm not just making this up. This is something that you can realise if you've watched Doctor Who all these years, not just in 60 years, if you've been watching it since the revival. These are things that have been thrown out here and there. It's been mentioned in the books, it's mentioned in the show, that the Doctor's never been allowed the pleasure of unrest. Or even the pleasure to rest. He's never been allowed to do anything other than, "Or I've got to keep going, because if I don't go, I'm going to crumble. And if I crumble, the rest of the world and universe falls. I am the pillar that's holding up the universe. I've got to keep going." And there are moments where he falters a bit, but it never lasts long because he knows he can't. So episode 2 was the therapy, the reflection with his best mate, with somebody he loves and trusts completely, who understands him as much as he understands himself, because she had his memories. She was the Doctor, Donna. So to have that therapy in episode 2 was much needed for him. And episode 3, which was the conclusion, that the Doctor needed to and deserves to rest. That at the end of this episode, Donna basically says to him, like, "Look, you've never stopped. You've never, ever stopped. I've seen it. I've had your memories. You never once have you stopped." And then to be taught, and Donna was getting through to him, but I feel like no matter how much Donna tried, it never worked. But it wasn't until, and this bit made me cry, of all loads of parts that made me cry, this is the part that made me cry the most, was the part of that the one person that the Doctor would listen to the most would be himself. The problem is the Doctor doesn't listen to himself, because no matter how many times he tells himself to stop, he keeps going. Whereas he now has the opportunity to talk to the 15th Doctor, to talk to Ncuti. Ncuti is him, he is Ncuti. They both know each other. They both are each other. So he can't lie to himself. And it's that moment where Ncuti basically holds him, and like you've got David crying on his shoulder. And it's very much a very sort of mental health sort of moment. It's a very positive sort of moment where, like, it's that inner reflection of oneself, hugging the younger self, the older version of yourself. It's very weird when it comes to Time Lords, but have this moment where where the Doctor Ncuti tells the 14th Doctor, "It's okay. You can slow down. You can stop." And I think hearing those words are the final sort of, not nail in the coffin, but the final thing he needed to hear, where it was like, "It's okay. It's okay to not keep running. You can slow down. I will do the running. You rest. Take your time. Let's spend time with your friends. Spend time with Donna, that sort of thing." And that's what he does. And that's what I want. That's what I want for this Doctor, because this Doctor is the first Doctor, the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th, 12th, and 14th. That the reason why he regenerated into the 5th, 10th Doctor's face was because it was the face that he needed to be in order to rest. Because it was the face that ran the hardest, that went through so much and just needed to rest. Now, people might sort of disagree with that. People might say, "Oh no, Capaldi went through worse," or Tom Baker, Colin Baker, Paul McGann, Sylvester McCoy, Hartnell. We could go through all the Doctors and say any one of them deserved this face in this moment, and all of them deserved rest. But I think it's just nice to finally get that rest. It's nice. It really, really is. And also, again, we have with Ncuti as well, moving back to sort of just wrapping up nicely. We get to see Ncuti Goa. He's now the 15th Doctor, and he does a wonderful job. I didn't think we was going to see as much as him as we do. He regenerates, and he's wearing a shirt, shoes, socks, but no trousers, just wearing pants and a scarf. I mean, not scarf, a tie. But he works it out brilliantly. He's kind of like the fact of, yeah, I've got no trousers on, but it's like he doesn't emboss it. It doesn't phase him. It's like he's like, that's the norm. That's what we all wear. Like he wears it so well. He's got a big smile, great laugh. How he again, we don't get, even though we see a lot of him, he's not. We haven't seen him in a proper adventure of his own yet. So we haven't seen how he comes out to his own person, his own self yet. That being said, what we do get and see is very, very wonderful. Indeed, and I love that. I do. He does a fantastic job, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does next. Like I said, he is now going to be the new sort of beacon of Doctor Who. He's him and anybody else that comes after him, whether it be a man or a woman, doesn't matter what comes next. He is the first for this generation of Doctor Who. For the next 60 years, he will be Doctor One, and he will be sort of the Hartnell of this generation's Doctor Who. And I think it's a very wonderful thing and idea. And we got to see a hint at the Christmas special. We got to hear the goblins sing their little goblin song, and we got to see Shooty looks like he was in a nightclub with a kilt on, and that's he meets Ruby Sunday, which I still can't get over the name Ruby Sunday. It sounds like an ice cream. So I'm never going to not be able to think of that whenever I hear a name. But that's what her name is, so fair enough. But we get sort of the Goblin King and goblins, and it's very Christmassy. And we don't see Santa, but, we get goblins. So yeah, overall, it's wonderful. There was something else I was going to mention, because I was talking about it, and I said I'm going to talk about that later, but I don't know if I've talked about it or not. I can't remember. I got so emotional with those other parts, I think I think I missed it. No, I can't remember what it was. I do apologise. Hopefully, I mentioned it or brought it up somewhat. Yeah, like one of the upsides is that I could go back after finishing this and listen to what I said and be, oh God, you idiot! That's what you wanted to talk about. But once it's out there, I can't do it. But if I can't remember it, it probably wasn't that important. And if you remember it and I didn't talk about it, then tweet me on Twitter and I'll I'll tell you my thoughts and feelings on it. But overall, as I've said, this is one of the best Doctor Who episodes I've seen in a very, very long time. It's absolutely lovely. Again, I don't know what they're going to do, if I'm being honest, with the 14th Doctor. Like I said, I want them to retire him and kind of let him rest. Will they do that? I don't know. That was one thing I did want to talk about. Is the whole leak. Obviously, the leak of the bioregeneration was leaked, and I heard about that already. And I didn't like the idea when I read about it, because again, a leak, you don't get the full details, you only get a small amount. But seeing it in person on screen, I liked it and it made sense and it worked for me. But the thing is, the thoughts and ideas that was going through my head as I was reading, well, I didn't want to read it, I was shown it by accident by a friend. But the leak that I was reading, obviously the idea is the fact of the Doctor was going to split in two, that he was going to have two different Doctors, that one Doctor is going to live on while another Doctor goes and lives on and does adventures. And when my first thought was when I was reading that was the fact of I don't like it, but I can't wait to see it in person. But also the fact of I thought, well, that's how I've always seen Big Finish. And let me explain. So Big Finish, I won't go into big detail, but Big Finish is a studio that makes Doctor Who adventures, stories. They carry on the stories of classic Doctors and modern Doctors. And I've always seen Big Finish, in my opinion, as the sort of the story might have ended, this Doctor might have regenerated, but the Doctor keeps living in the stories that we tell. So that even though that, I guess I'm trying to find a way to say, basically when the Doctor regenerates, he regenerates, but in one universe he stays. For example, in one universe he stays Tom Baker, but in our universe he regenerates into Peter Davison, right? And then Big Finish picks up, and all the adventures that you hear in Big Finish are the adventures that he goes on. When after that regeneration happens, he goes off with other new companions, or other companions, or he goes on adventures that we didn't get to see. And that's how I'd always seen Big Finish, was the fact of any new adventures or any new sort of companions were adventures that the Doctor went on after the generation, that so they kept living and going on. And that could still be the same for the 14th Doctor. Like the 14th Doctor could, all fairness, it probably get confusing for people who want to listen to the 10th Doctor adventures and the 14th Doctor's adventures. But he could live on in Big Finish. He could go on adventures with Rose and do wonderful things with Rose. Go on adventures and bring Donna along and Sylvia and the like. I don't know what they will decide to do, but I think I'm happy with how Doctor is at the moment. I really enjoyed this episode, and this is probably going to be another long episode, and I do apologize. Like, just in this review alone, I'm at 36 minutes and counting. So again, I do apologize, but I love Doctor Who. I really, really do. As you can tell, it's one of my favorite fandoms. It's one of my favorite worlds and characters, and I just love it all. And to now finally have the opportunity to go back onto BBC iPlayer and to watch all the classic episodes that I never got to watch because again I missed them. So to go back and to watch all them and to kind of do the adventure all over again is a wonderful experience. So yeah, there's a lot to come. Like I said, I'm going to cover the Christmas special, which comes out Christmas Day. Probably, in all fairness, I will be spending time with family, so I won't be recording Christmas Day. So you most likely you'll get it on the 26th or 27th of December. But I will be looking and reviewing the Christmas special for shooting, so that will be coming as well. Next year, I've got plans to do a lot more Doctor Who stuff. We still got to get through the Ten and Rose books, so we've got to get through those as well. I've got to review Ten and Rose series 2. So I've got to get through that and finish it and review that. So we've got all that coming, as well as there's other stuff that I want to do. There's other sort of movies and other fun little things I have planned in terms of Doctor Who that I want to look at, the animation side of things and the TV show. And I don't want to give anything away, but I've got ideas of things that I want to look at, as well as loads of sort of potentially, looking into Big Finish, which scares the hell out of me because Big Finish is huge, and I'd have no idea where to begin even talking about it and trying to break it down. But there's a lot of things I want to do in terms of Doctor Who, so get ready because starting next year, there's a lot to cover, and obviously we're going to have Shooty's run as well. So if anybody was worried that this would be the end of Doctor Who for me, no sir, no sir, Bob. It's going. If anything, it's ramped up now. My love and passion for Who has been more rejuvenated than it was originally. I'm excited for what the future holds. I'm excited to see what Shooty does. I'm excited to read older books. I'm excited to go delve deeper into Big Finish. I recently became a huge lover of Paul McGann on Big Finish, so I'm going through a whole adventure with Paul McGann at the moment, and it's absolutely wonderful. He has such a gorgeous voice for audio. He's a gorgeous man in general, but just have his voice, it's like chocolate mousse. It's just wonderful and gorgeous, and wow, you know what I mean. But I will get on to gushing over Paul McGann at another date and time. See what I did there, because Time Lord, get it? But there's a lot to come in terms of Doctor Who, so no need to worry, no need to fret. I will still be covering tons and tons and tons of Doctor Who stuff into next year and into the following year. Basically, as long as I'm alive, I will talk about Doctor Who. So yeah, overall, I'm just full of happiness and elation, and it's sad to see it end, but I know it's not the end because my favourite Doctor of the modern era, he's now resting with his best friend. He's happy as Larry, and we now have a new Doctor to go off and to kind of light the way, to be sort of the light bearer, to be the shining beacon of the title, the legend that is the Doctor, moving forwards, and it's wonderful. What it is then, the last thing that I want to end with is the fact of one of the wonderful things about fandom, no matter what fandom it is, whether it be something as big and old as Doctor Who, Star Wars, Star Trek, X-Files, or something that is just small, and it's like a book series or a movie series or trilogy, whatever. No matter what it may be, if you're a fan of something, that's wonderful. That's a wonderful thing to have. What's wonderful about it as well is the fact of the older something is, the more inclined it is to change. And as humans, we don't like change, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's okay not to agree with something that somebody else likes or somebody else dislikes. That's fine. One of the things, though, is the fact of with a fandom that's as old as Doctor Who or Star Wars, any of those, is the fact of if you don't like anything that's being shown now, that's okay, because you have the luxury to go back and to watch what came before. So at any moment, that if anybody, you don't like what they're doing with Shooty, or if there's anything that this is not who you liked, that's okay. That's okay to have those opinions. There's nothing wrong with that. And you are free to go off and to watch the older Who, and if that's okay. But I just what I'm trying to say is the fact of the wonderful thing about fandom is that we all have our own opinions. We all have our likes and dislikes, and we like these things, and we don't like those things. But we should all come together and just love the thing that we love, whether we agree or disagree. Just love. That's what I'm asking. Is the fact of no matter what, just come together and let's love Who. Let's love Star Wars. Let's love fandom. Because at the end of the day, if it wasn't for us fans, these things that we love wouldn't be around today. So on the 60th anniversary of Doctor Who, the final special, which I know it's not the 60th anniversary, that was a couple of weeks ago, but it being the final episode of the 60th, as a fandom, let's set our differences aside and just go, look, we love Who, and no matter what, that can't be taken away from us. And that's what I want to say on it. So, Who is wonderful. I love Doctor Who. I love everything about it. I love all fandoms, and I think wherever we go next, I'm excited and I'm on board for it. So thank you very, very much for listening to me, your host, Luke the Human, for talking about the Giggle, the final special of the 6th anniversary. Hope you liked it. Hope you enjoyed it. If you're listening on YouTube, don't forget to leave a comment down below. I'd really, really love to hear your thoughts and feelings. Also, if you follow me on Twitter at Nerdstalgic_pod, let me know what you think there. I want to hear people's thoughts and feelings on this episode, because generally it was lovely, and I want to bask in that wonderful loveliness with other people, other fandoms. So yeah, let me know what your thoughts and feelings are. I can't wait to hear them, and I will catch you in the next one. And finally, for the last time, allons-y.